And I said, oh, hold on. What?
From
Yeah,
big
yeah,
corporates to startups
yeah,
to just by yourself.
yeah.
She started her corporate career for business giants like Henkel, Microsoft, and the Red Bull Media House.
Talking about vision and mission and values and what we can sell.
Now, she's one of the best sales trainers in the German language market.
In July, I was then starting. And in August already, I was booked out.
Joining us live right now from Vienna, Austria.
There's always a market, there's always a target group if you're solving a real world problem.
Please welcome, here's Stephanie Sgura. Woo!
Wow.
Hi, welcome to the Leber Show, where every week we bring you inspiring stories of success and overcoming obstacles from the worlds of sports, business, and entertainment. To get your regular dose of inspiration, click subscribe and hit the notification bell. Today we'll not only learn about becoming a solopreneur, but also what it takes to build your own brand, and also how to get somebody to buy, and simply how it is to follow your dreams. But before we get into all of that, when you look at your life today and think back on your journey, was that what you had imagined as a kid?
No, I guess not. But I need to say, super funny story. When I was a child already, I was always watching TV, but not, for the shows or for something. It was always for the advertisements. So I was always going there and saying, hey, mommy, advertisements, let's go. And I really, literally every jingle I could sing, out of the blue. It was not a problem at all. So I was really completely into that one. So it was, I think, very, very early. I was already on the trip. I want to go into marketing. And then I studied also marketing and sales, but I was more there for the marketing side. I need to admit, sales was just only like, yeah, okay, it's there. Yeah. But it wasn't something I wanted to go. And yeah, then in the end, I started when I was 19 years old, also in the marketing field. I studied beside, and I was then 12 years in marketing. So I would say, yeah, more or less there was something I imagined somehow, but where I'm today, that I'm a sales trainer, no, not at all. I would say no.
Okay, I know that feeling somehow, like that you then end up, I mean, not from where I'm ending up right now, but in the past, there have been some times where I'm like, I never want to do that. And then suddenly you're
Yeah.
there. So it's,
Yeah. I always said, no, never. I don't go in sales. Never. Yeah. It was like, this shady thing in my head. And a lot of people told me, hey, you're for sure really good in sales, Steffi. I was always, no. And I mean, now I'm a sales trainer. It's obviously somehow crazy. Yeah. But, yeah, this is the way it goes sometimes, right?
so let's unpack, or let's unravel, or,
Yeah.
or also rewind a little bit. So you already said that you studied marketing. So you clearly had an interest in that. And also then your first corporate steps were in the marketing world, and you started out with big corporations, with Henkel. And then also you went to Goldbach. You were at, also at the Red Bull
Microsoft.
Media House and Microsoft
Yeah.
in between as well.
Yeah.
So how was that? Take us with you. What were the learnings out of those early years? And then also afterwards, why did you move in a different area? But let's start with the learnings.
Yeah, let's start with the learnings. So very early, I started with 19 because I wanted to move out from home, honestly spoken, I was raised up with my mother only, mainly. And this is also, sometimes you need to go different ways. And then I said, okay, I want to move out early, and I want to be on my own. And my mom, she pushed me really hard in a positive way. She always said, hey, I really want you to have a better life, that you have more possibilities than I had, because she had the possibility to study, other times. Yeah. And so she always pushed me, and I was very ambitious always. And I started then with Henkel, and it was always, also for sure coming from my mother, you need to go in big companies, and make a big career. And I want you, to shine. And she was, always behind my back and pushing this. And so I started with Henkel, which was pretty nice. And I started as a marketing assistant, So I can remember so hard. I literally was bringing the coffee to my managers, times like this, and where I printed out emails that he could read the emails, how crazy is that from a today perspective? But this was my job. My first job in the end was being an assistant and doing everything what the marketing team needed. So I didn't study when I was 19 because as I moved out, I first needed a job to in the end, buy
To
my
support
bills.
yourself.
Yeah. And there wasn't a chance to study immediately, but I knew I want to study because it was clear in marketing, you need, to have the education to really be in the enterprise segment, to work for these big companies. So it was clear that I need it, but I started then as an assistant, at least something. But it was pretty cool because I did a lot of stuff for my managers, not only bringing coffee, but I can remember quite well how that was. I did a lot of stuff. And in the end, one of my first managers was really seeing something in me, and he gave me everything. I was building his PowerPoint templates, where he made his big presentations. And this is where I already started to learn how to make really, really good presentations, because he was always, giving me all the freedom, and I had a lot of creativity. And then he also said, "Hey, Steffi, you are so creative. You do the events for us." And then I started really doing the biggest events for the Central Eastern market for for Henkel Central Eastern Europe. Yeah. So I was flying to Malta and to other countries and doing these big events for the whole region. So I got more and more responsibilities, and it made a lot of fun, So this is also where it started where I realized I have a lot of talents and a lot of interests and a lot of things. Was a lot of fun in the end. I also started doing video cutting. I remember because for the presentations, we wanted to bring this on the next level. And then we started, cutting videos, and I did this all on my own. I was always doing this on my own, learning by myself. And this is how it grows and grows and grows. And I had more and more responsibility. And I did this in the end 6 years. And I was then the event manager in the end from Schwarzkopf and Henkel.
So basically, to put it into different words, you were very, very much self-motivated. You really wanted to grow. You were eager to learn because it was your first stop also in a corporate or in a working environment. And also, like, whatever there was to learn or to get new skills, you were like, hey, raising your hand, I'm here. I want to learn. And even if you didn't know exactly how to do it, it was just about figuring out a way.
Totally. I was always, eager to learn. Really, from the beginning, I had a very growth mindset. I even didn't know former times what that was, but I always wanted to grow and to see more and to learn more and to do more. And I think I already started, and studying. And when I finished my studies, I was 6 years within Schwarzkopf and Henkel. And it's always, when you're one time the assistant, you're always the assistant. Yeah. And it was clearly that I need to drop out of this, that I can start really now being a brand manager or a product manager. But I remember there was times when I dropped out where there was a crisis. I don't remember which crisis it was, but there was not a really good time to search for a job. And it was really like crazy because I had 6 years of experience. So the corporates didn't let me into this typical trainee position, where you normally go to when you studied, because they said, "Hey, Steffi, you have already 6 years of experience. You are overqualified." And on the other hand, they didn't let me on a brand manager position because they said, "Yeah, but you were only assistant. Not really qualified, So it was crazy like hell. So I studied. I was 6 years into place, and then I didn't get a job. And then I was like, okay, I give a shit on you big corporates. Yeah. Then I go somewhere else. And Goldbach was so nice to take me. And for me, it was honestly a lucky punch because at this time, there was the rise of online marketing, you know, of social media. I mean, this is, I don't know, 100 years ago from my gut feeling. Yeah. But it's a long, long time ago. It's 15 years ago. And there was the rise of all of this. Yeah. From banner advertising was like going like crazy. Yeah? And for me, this was something I didn't learn in my studies because it was pretty old school, of course. Yeah. As we all know. So for me, it was like, okay, that's really cool because this is again something new. I didn't learn so much about it, and it's something where I was completely interested into. So I said, yeah, okay, come on, let's go for that. And then in the end, I was the product manager for a lot of Austrian online products where I was in the end forming them for the market, but nobody knows. But I was behind it.
So it was again really learning new skills, like
Yeah.
a total growth mindset. And it sounds like you are very much somebody who has a high need for growth.
Yeah, totally. It's crazy. And when I get bored, I have really the most of the times when I drop out of companies, it was of a bore out syndrome. Yeah.
So you also went to Microsoft, you went to Red Bull, which are
Yeah.
all, or Red Bull Media House, which are all very well known brands.
Yeah.
And how is that? Like it is like the picture book career. And I'm sure your mom was like, wow, that's
Yeah.
amazing. My
Yeah.
daughter is working at all those amazing brands. And how did it come that then from Red Bull, you are as especially it's like a marketing Disneyland in a way, isn't it?
It
And
is.
then
It
you
is.
go and then you go into a startup world. Why is
Yeah, it
that?
was. Yeah, it was a crazy change. I mean, also with Microsoft, Microsoft took me because of my knowledge in the online field. Yeah. So every step from a today perspective completely makes sense. So this is what I also want to always give people. Don't worry about to make the wrong step because every step brings you exactly where you should go. And I would never have been within Microsoft when I didn't do the job at Goldbach because they were searching for someone like me, someone with marketing background, knowing exactly the digital field, and then taking over the whole marketing for, I made Windows and Surface. I was launching the first Surface in Austria. So I did the biggest campaigns in Austria here with 4 million budget. Yeah, it was crazy times. Yeah, this was like, I would say, yeah, the really top of my career. I was in the media. I was everywhere. We made a lot of PR and this was really awesome. And then, you know, what should come, of course, to top this, there was only one possibility to go to Red Bull. And in the end, what I realized then after I was then 12 years within marketing, and I was coming to a point after 12 years where I had the feeling I've seen it all. You know, I did TV commercials. I did photo shoots on mountains with Red Bull. You know, there was so much stuff I did already. And for me, it's like, been there, done that. What's next? And I was not very happy with Red Bull. I was there only 1 year, I need to admit. And one of my former managers, we were meeting at an event. I really know the day by heart. And he said, hey, how happy are you with Red Bull? And I said, yeah, not as expected. And it's really difficult because Microsoft has such a awesome culture, you know, corporate culture. And then coming to Red Bull was a little bit of a nightmare, to be honest, for me, because everything works different there. And I think everyone who was there would say the same. So I wasn't so into it. And he then said, oh, Steffi, I have something for you. And I said, okay, go ahead. What is it? I have a startup. I said, a what? And because then, you know, 10 years ago, this was like, what is a startup? I mean, this wasn't either fancy, cool or something in these times. Today, it's maybe different. Maybe 2 years ago, it was cool. Now it's again a little bit, you know, difficult. But in the end, he said, I think this is really the perfect job for you. Because they need you. They need your knowledge. They need someone who really can handle all this crazy stuff. I think it's a good challenge for you. And I said, not sure, but I talk with the founder. Okay. And then I was coming from Salzburg back to Vienna just to meet the founder. And it immediately clicked between us. You know, it was like love at first sight, would say, in a business way. And then we meet again, and then it was decided already, and it was clear that I would start into sales. And I said, okay, I will have a look if that is something really for me, and then we will decide. But when it's something, I don't want to be just a seller. Because I was 32, I want to be then the head of sales, and really rock this with you. And he said, oh, that's fine. If you're the best seller, I give you the job. And there were 3 other sellers before. And then I started. And after 3 months, he made me the head of sales.
All right. So
Yeah.
coming from the marketing background, going into the sales world, and I can somehow relate to that because also I have a sales background and I also studied marketing and now also with the online marketing world and so on. But from your perspective, what was great what was great from marketing that you could already incorporate into the sales world? What connections gave you that advantage actually?
Yeah, the fun part is that all my clients said, hey, Steffi, I don't know what you do, but it's not what typical sellers do. And I said, okay, but what are typical sellers doing? Because I had no reference, I didn't knew at this time any seller because I was always into marketing field. I just had this image from sellers, but it wasn't that I really knew how they are working. Yeah. That they are so pushy and not listening and they don't accept the no and all these things I didn't know so well. And I was doing it my way, and I think the big advantage was that I was coming from marketing and doing it differently. I didn't do it, by pushing someone. It was more, and this was the biggest advantage, I was selling to marketing managers. And I mean, it was more or less to me. Yeah. So I knew them by heart. I knew what are their goals, what are their KPIs. I knew everything. So I just picked up the phone and talked with them like a normal human would talk to a human and say, hey guys, I know this and this and that. Are you also struggling in that way? Because then maybe I have something for you where I can help you out. And all my clients really were then long-term clients and always calling me when they need an advice. And that was my biggest advantage because I was really an expert into marketing. I was having a technology for marketing, which was really like on the edge at this time. We were really flying. We were growing like hell. And in 3 years, with my team, I made it that we were the market leader after 3 years. So that was really crazy, right?
And that's fantastic. And it's a great point that you're bringing up because I think it's so critical that you really understand who are you selling to? Who is your target audience, or in the marketing world, who is your avatar? Who is the person? Because if you understand what keeps them up at night, what are their dreams, their desires, also what are they anxious about? What are their fears? And if you understand them and if you talk about that, about those things, they're going to be, oh, finally there's somebody who understands me. Because as a business owner, and I'm sure you know that as well, how often does it happen that you call a company that because you know you need to get some help at some point, and then you feel like, you're not getting what I need.
Exactly. And that's the number one problem, that most of the people focus on the complete wrong things. And the baseline is always listening and understand. And so many people just talk because they want to say what they want to say, but they don't talk to respond what they hear and understand. And that's exactly where a lot of deals got lost.
Incredible. Okay, so before we go more into the sales nuts and bolts, let's talk a bit more about the startup world, because also there you were in the startup world for several years.
Yeah.
And what was the main difference compared to the big corporates? And also, what were your learnings there?
One thing, I mean, everything is completely different. I think that the biggest change is going from a corporate to startup, and a lot of people don't get this, they got lost in the chaos. And honestly spoken, it also took me a year to get settled into that new setting. Which was completely different, in corporate, you have a big brand, of course, which is easy. When you call and say, hey, here's Content Garden Technologies. What? Who, you know what I mean? You are nobody, and nobody cares about you. You don't have a big name, so it's really hard to sell. And you don't have you never have a finished product. Yeah, that's another challenge. Yeah, so you don't have a name, you don't have a finished product. You sell often something which is not here yet, but maybe coming up. And in the end, it's really it's everything is completely different. And but for me, I mean, I'm a really classical millennial. I want to move, you know, I have such a high demand of moving and moving a lot of stuff at the same time. And in a corporate world, it's a lot of millennials struggle because of that, you know, because we are so narrowed down and just thinking from A to B. And the complete opposite is, of course, startup, because you just don't only think from A to Z. You have 4 jobs at the same time. Yeah, it's always like that. You just don't have one job. But this is something which fulfilled me a lot, because I was in the end learning how to sell. I was building first time my team. I was putting in my first CRM system from scratch, you know, building it up from zero. This was also a very cool project. I was also doing the marketing stuff then, because we had no marketing department. So I was also helping out there. So in the end, it was a lot. Yeah. And I was working a lot like hell. Yeah. Far more than in corporates. And I was thinking I worked already there a lot, but it was really like, you know, much more fulfilling. This is what I learned, you know, that I can do so many things, and it fulfilled me more than having a clear job with a clear job role position and a clear path, you know. But I think it's super important that you realize what kind of type you are. I'm that type, but a lot of people would die in a startup field, you know, because it's a lot and it's much and it's a lot of chaos, and you also need to handle that. And not everyone is, you know, made for that. So I completely get it when people say, hey, I like my 9 to 5 job. That's also totally fine.
Wow. So basically, also, I mean, the impact that you're creating in the startup world, of course, is
Yeah.
significantly higher. You're really moving the needle.
Yeah.
In corporate, you are one out of maybe several 100,000 employees worldwide.
Exactly.
And
Yeah.
there you're maybe one out of 5,
Yeah.
10,
10.
something, 20.
Yeah.
So it's not really, so it's really, it really has a lot more gravity of what you're doing.
Yeah.
And still, also that time came to an end. Why is
Yeah.
that? And how did you make the decision to go into solopreneurship?
Yeah. So, I mean, we were very successful in these 3 years, and I learned a lot. I would say this was the time where I always look back and say this was the best time in my career. Because Microsoft was the one thing, you know, from a prestige perspective, you know, from an outside view, where I say, hey, wow, I was there, and we had 4 million budgets and everything, you know. So from an outside ego perspective, I would say it was Microsoft. From an inside fulfilling perspective, it was for sure Content Garden. These 3 years with my team, you know, this was something. We weren't famous or something, you know, we were market leader. Okay, fine. But nobody knew. We weren't, you know, in the press, and we were, because my founder always said, Steffi, we are the underdog. Okay. I don't want to be the big shiny next unicorn shit. Yeah. We are the underdogs. And I said, okay, that's super fine for me. So, you know, from an inside perspective, this was the best time of my life, when I was really like in companies. Nevertheless, we came to an end at a point after 3 years where I had again my bore out syndrome was kicking in. And I said, hey guys, I'm doing it now this for 3 years, and I have the feeling I cannot grow, because I wanted to go more into the product direction, but they said, yeah, the product will stay the same. And I was like, okay, but somehow we need to develop something. And there wasn't a chance, you know. And at this time, like HubSpot was on the rise and all these great technologies. And I was like, ooh, this is the future. I need to go where the future is, you know, and I want to learn more. And then I dropped out, which was really hard. I was crying a lot. I was really crying a week. And everyone was crying in the company, I think. It was really hard, but I knew I need to go on to grow further. And I was then going in complete different way. I stayed in the sales area, but
But it
yeah,
sounds like breaking up a relationship.
yeah, it was. It was really hard. It was really like a relationship, a very close relationship, but in the end, sometimes you need to move on. No matter how big the love is, because I was not evolving anymore, and I was feeling I need to go on because of my progress. And if someone stops me in growing, there is a problem, And then in the end, we separated. Let's say it like this: it was almost a breakup, and we were all crying. And then I got into a company which are selling in the end software development projects. So really greenfield, completely different. But I wanted to learn more, and it was too much. I just need to say, after 1 year, I dropped out. It was too much. It was too technical for me. And then I was going back into the startup scene and was in the other scale up. And then there was coming a point, because you asked me, okay, what happened where I got then self-employed? There was a point, I was in the last 3 companies only 1 year always, and I had the feeling, okay, holy shit. I'm not sure if I find the right company for me where I can really stay, where I feel, the values, because I was always giving more than 100%. I'm a very passionate worker, as you can see now from the last half an hour. And I was always, putting all my heart into it. I was always working at weekends. That was normal for me because I love working. For me, it's not work. I just live my passion always. So I was not seeing it like work. But when I live my passion and I give everything in there, I really want to have something back, in return. And for me, for example, also company values, company culture, where I really say, okay, this is more or less something where I can stay longer. It didn't happen in the last years. And then I was at a point where I said, okay, I'm not sure if I find the right company, like Content Garden was, for me anymore. And I was struggling a lot what to do. And then a good friend of mine came to me and said, Steffi, I'm getting self-employed. You should do that too. And I said, oh, hold on. What?
From big corporates to startups to just by yourself.
Yeah. And she was saying like, yeah, for sure, Steffi, you can do that too. And I said, are you kidding me? I even don't know what should be my idea. And she said, are you kidding? You have 20 years of experience in marketing and sales. I mean, obviously you can do something out there. And a lot of people struggle exactly in sales. So do something out of that. And then there is a program in Austria which is supporting people, getting self-employed and building their own business. So
like a founders program.
Yeah, exactly. And I dropped into the program and said, okay, come on. 6 months, I get money from the state. Thanks a lot. And I try it. And if after 6 months there is no outcome, I can anyway go back, It's not a shame. So, and then I just tried to figure out what I should do a few months. And a lot with my friend, we were sitting a lot and talking about vision and mission and values and what we can sell and whatsoever, very funny. And then I think in July, I remember officially I was then starting, and in August already I was booked out. So it got very fast, and I was very, very fast successful. I mean, I need to admit one of my biggest clients was an interim head of sales, mandat. Not sure how that is in English.
Mandate.
Mandate. And so I did this interim job, which is more or less half of my time, So I had a very nice income from that, from the beginning. And
so, before you say that, actually, and being booked out, what did you sell? What was your service?
Yeah, in the end, I wanted to do something like business development as a service. I was saying, but in the end, it turned out that I did interim head of sales for 2 companies for this first. And then I had also a second one where I did more or less interim head of sales, the exact same, but just for more than one companies at a much more attractive salary, I would say. And in the end, this was the beginning of it. So I did, time against money. Yeah. Where I always say, don't do that. But it was helping me to find in the end, then the final solution where I got then Solopreneur.
Before we get into that and also
Yes.
the time versus money equation, you just pointed out that it was a much more desirable pay in a way. Yeah. Because obviously, usually when you apply for a job and you work for a corporate or also for a startup, then it's like, this is what we pay and you take it or leave it.
Yeah.
When you have your own company, you get one of the nice benefits is you get to make the price.
Yeah.
At the same time, you also have to sell it. And if nobody's buying it at the price, then you have a problem.
That's
at
true.
the same time, how do you set the price? Or how do you price yourself?
Yeah, that was the hardest part for everyone, I guess it is from this perspective.
Or
So
what would be your advice for somebody out there who is like, well, I would like to do my own thing. I maybe already have an idea what I'm doing, but
yeah.
how am I pricing myself?
Yeah. So what I did is in the end, I started with a research, because I have in the end, more or less officially, I was consulting, so I take a look what consultants get. There was from 150 to 1,000 an hour, everything in there. And then I said, okay.
We're talking
and
euros.
yeah, we talk for euros. Yeah, in euros. And then I was sitting down and really thinking of, okay, which target group do I have? Yeah, for whom do I want to do this? Because this is also one of the criteria, So there is the range in the market from your competitors. That's one thing. Then there is, okay, which target group are you addressing? And for me, it was clear I want to work for startups, You can, of course, make a different price for enterprise. Yes, for sure. But for startups, I need to go down. That was also very clear. So it needs to be something they can handle. And then I said, okay, what's my value? And that is the most difficult parts for the most people, because what is really your value? What are you bringing on the table? For 3 years ago, my value was 250 euros an hour. And I was never going under that, because that I always was very confident to say, I'm worth it, 250 euros an hour. No discussion about that. And I really I was sticking to that. Today, you cannot even buy me by this, hour price. It's not possible anymore because I got Solopreneur. But when really someone is asking me, and I seldom do this, then today it's 500 euros per hour. So I also, I grew up, and that's also a process, because I didn't change anything, I'm the same person. But I doubled in the end my hour price, because I said, I'm worth it. I know what I bring to the table in 1 hour. And you don't pay me for this 1 hour. You pay me for the 20 years, And I think that's also something important if you are young, for example, and you have just 2 years of experience, what's also completely fine. And you can go your own way. That's super fine. But of course, you maybe don't start with 500 euros an hour, So I think also the years you're into your business and what you bring to the table, you need to handle these criteria and then bring something where you really feel confident to sell it. That's the most important.
I think that's a very, very good point that you're making also. Do you see a difference? Because, okay, first of all, it's really about the mindset. It's really about what do you feel that you are worth?
Yeah.
What do you believe that you're worth? Because there are some people out there that I know that could clearly charge more.
Yeah.
But they do not, because they don't believe that they're worth it. Do you see also a significant difference between men and women in terms of what they believe, in terms of what they can charge?
For sure. For sure. We know all they negotiate better, also in their salaries. So men always are much more confident with that. And I was lucky to have a lot of really great guys around me always my whole life. I learned a lot from them, and I never had the feeling that I, as a woman, have any, disadvantage because I am a woman. Never, my whole life, because I was always a very good negotiator. I learned a lot from you guys, so I'm very thankful for that. But I knew a lot of women struggle a lot in their also finding their value and also sell, themselves. So women struggle more than men, for sure.
You being is because it ultimately comes down to really selling yourself,
Yeah.
and it doesn't matter if you're an employee,
Yeah.
if you work in sales,
Yeah.
if like all of it doesn't matter. You always sell yourself
Always.
because there's always something you're selling, and it might be your time, it might be your product, whatever it is.
Yes.
And for you also from a sales perspective and from a sales trainer perspective, when you put this out there, what is something that you can give to somebody who feels like, I'm selling myself short here?
I think the biggest question is to solve what's your value first. We all need to work on that, on our inner side, because everything else, doesn't help. You first need to work here from the inside, and then you need to work on your presence, on your, self-confidence from the outside. You need to really be 100% sure that you're worth it, that you go in there. And this is half of the sale, what you already do. Because when I'm confident, I'm confidently talking now with you, it's completely different than what it would when I stand here and say like, yeah, I'm Steffi and I'm sales trainer. You know what I mean? And
Yeah,
that's
maybe you
something.
can pay me that. I mean, I'm not sure, but yeah,
Yeah.
it would be nice.
Yeah, exactly. So confidence is the most important, and confidence is not something you're just clicking in. I know, unfortunately, it's not that simple, but you need to believe, you need to believe that you're worth it, that you can do that. And then it's okay to start with a smaller price, when you feel more confident to sell this, but then go ahead, and see what's really coming out. And what's helping a lot, what I do with also solopreneurs, I always give them the exercise that they calculate what they bring on the table when I work 1 hour with them. What is it really worth it? The advice they give, for example, yeah. What does that change for the other side? And then normally 5 figures are behind that. And then I say, okay, you're bringing me in 1 hour tips to get 5 figures more out of my business, for example. And then you have doubts to really go on the table and ask for 250 euros an hour for that. How does that work out? Explain me. And later, this is a very good exercise where they realize, holy shit, I'm far too cheap. and that's something which works out quite well. So this is maybe an exercise everyone should do.
Absolutely. Like really not selling time, but actually selling
Yeah.
value.
Yes,
And
exactly.
I don't know if you've ever done this, but I just reminded me actually just a few months ago, I also went into a negotiation, and I was driving there, and the whole way while I was driving there, I was having a conversation with ChatGPT
Okay.
because I already knew what I was going to sell, but I still haven't made up my mind yet about how to price it. And so I was really the whole time negotiating with ChatGPT.
Okay.
What am I, how would you price that? Okay, well, this and this, but how would you price this when you like really not being hourly based, being value based, and this and well, it's this and
Cool.
it's that and so on. And so I was always giving. He was
Yeah.
giving me back numbers or a range, and then I would go back and say, well, but it's this and so on, and it was fascinating.
Cool.
And
Very
at the
good
end,
idea.
I asked for a number that I probably would have not dared to ask if it would have been without without the help of ChatGPT.
Okay. Did it work?
I didn't get exactly the number, but it absolutely worked. I made the
Okay.
sale. Yes.
Okay, that's perfect. I mean, then also this is a very nice example of getting there. I mean, honestly, yeah, pricing is always on us. for sure, you can. I mean, we all know that. Yeah, we can buy a car for 5K, for 50K, for 500,000K. Why are you buying a car for 500,000K? It's exactly the same with every kind of service and with every kind of product. You need to really see also, where are you? Where do you want to sell? There's always a market. There's always a target group if you're solving a real world problem. Yeah. If it's just nice to have or any shit, no. But if it's really something where you're solving a problem, especially in the B2B area where I am at home since 20 years, we need to solve problems. And if you have a problem and it's big, then it's also super easy to get through with a nice price.
I love that. All right. Now, there's still something else to be solved. Because
Yeah.
you said, okay, great. I went out by myself, but I was still changing my time against money.
Yeah.
So that's maybe the first step of going out there on your own.
Yeah.
But that also was something that you still wanted to solve.
Yeah,
How did you
totally.
solve it?
Yeah, I was realizing very fast. So I'm a very fast thinker and I always, like, okay, this is not working for me. How can we change that? Yeah, and I'm always a fast changer. I really see a problem and then I solve it. I don't think 100 years about it. I always have, okay, what is option 1, 2, 3? Okay, let's go for 2. I make decisions very fast. I think this is something which is bringing me always, also in a fast way to where I want to go. And in this case, it was really, I think in the 3rd month or something, I was realizing, okay, that's super nice. I'm getting a lot of money now, because I did, I don't know, 20, 30K a month, around that, and very fast. And then I was like, okay, but I'm now booked out and I'm exhausted. I'm working like hell. And, it's like getting all my energy out. But this I
I'm
can't
making
do.
all the money and I have
Yeah.
no time to spend it.
Yeah, that's the problem. And then I was like, okay, Steffi, that is quite okay from a money perspective. But now think again, can you do this 20 years from now? Because you will not maybe go back to, a normal job. And can you do this now for the next 20 years? And you're getting older. I mean, I'm now 41. And I was like that. No, it doesn't work like this. So I need to change. And then I was going a lot into this, solopreneurship stuff. And I was more or less by accident going in this direction. I'm coming from the startup scene. I mean, I knew how to scale businesses. And then I was thinking of, okay, there needs to be something how I can do this also for me as a solopreneur then. And then I was researching a lot and really also seeing, okay, what is it? Yeah, how can we do that? And then I changed completely. So after 1 year, it took a little bit because I need to rebuild my business from scratch. But then the clients, I said goodbye, more or less. Yeah. Once by once, I put them down and said then, okay, we need to separate each other because I need to do something
You
different.
fired your client, so to say.
More or less. I said goodbye in a nice way from both sides, but it was always super fine. We made always a perfect, drop out. And then I was starting doing cohort-based trainings, which is more or less like a scalable model, doing group sessions, because you earn far more money compromised in a few hours because you have 10 people there. So I got introduced to this group training as a business model. I was trying out that. And then I was like, okay, this is working quite well. And I would say, result of this change from my business model was before I was working really 60 hours, a lot, for really also a nice value, I need to say. But the value stayed the same, but I was going down to 20 hours. And that was a complete different life, It was like, oh, wow, what happens now? Yeah. So I had a lot of time, which is good and the bad, because we know that I then made a second business, but maybe later to that. But I had a lot of time to think and also to find myself. And my business was still super stable. And that was really great. I mean, this was like something where I was like, oh, wow. Yeah. This worked out quite well. Yeah. So it was really great.
All right. So basically, that's the business model that you're doing right now. Is that correct?
Yes. I'm still doing sales training cohort based. So that's still my main thing I'm doing currently.
Okay, so but as I know you and as I've gotten to know you as well, you're always thinking ahead.
Yeah.
So what's the next step?
Yeah. So I told you I got a little bit time, 20 hours is a lot. And for me, the goal was in 2023 to really give me this space, and have this life I was wishing for. And, I was living the dream. Yeah. I was 4 weeks on holiday in February. I was then also 4 weeks also in September and marrying at Bali, my husband. So we were living la vida loca. Yeah. So this was really like where I said, okay, this is really great. But, and there was the but, when you have time and you are not like, I was really pushing a lot also myself. Yeah. So I want to be successful. And when do I do my first million revenue? And, such stupid things I learned from the startup scene. And I was pushing myself a lot. And then I had a lot of time to think, okay, what do I really want? What really gives me the money? And in the end, the answer was when you have enough, more than enough, it's not the same, It's not like that you say, yeah, okay, it's now nice. And now, so what? And it was not fulfilling at all to achieve my revenue goals. I was always looking for that in the beginning because I was used to it. I'm coming from sales. I was always very pushed to this. Yeah. Okay, Steffi, 1 million, and next year 2 million, Steffi, and next year 6 millions. Yeah. And I just knew it this way. And then I was really thinking again and said, okay, is it really cool to always just make bigger numbers, Steffi? What does this bring to you? And this was also the way where I was, switching around and working more on time. But there was another thing coming up. And I remember it was in a breathwork session I did with a friend of mine. And there was a point where something came up and I was like, shit, this is new in my head now. And it was more or less something where I said, okay, I'm not fulfilled. I'm not fulfilled, of course, just by money. Nobody is, but I'm also not fulfilled just being a sales trainer. And this was more and more coming up. I did a few breathwork sessions. And after each session, I was like, whew, there's coming up something, which means I need to change again. And I did, because my biggest strength is in the end really this pushing and moving forward, bringing people forward, because I always did. I was always the person behind, behind the founder, behind the manager as an assistant. I was always this person behind. And in the end, I realized my portfolio, my resources from marketing, sales, scaling, business development, all of that is not coming into this, what I do today, because I'm just a sales trainer and just do sales trainings, and all the other capabilities I cannot use currently. And this is not fulfilling me. So I changed again and I built a second business, which is today Solopreneurs Live. It started first with, I would say on Instagram, it's in the end, the behind the scenes, building my business. And now it turned out that I was launching a club, for just 30 B2B solopreneurs, where I'm now currently building their business with them. And it's very, very fulfilling, I need to say. And now I'm currently doing both businesses. And I really feel that I'm now on really the right way to find my inner peace. And that's the most important in the end, because this is something where we are then fulfilled, I would say.
That's fascinating. And you just said on Instagram, you're building the solopreneur brand. Yeah. On LinkedIn, you're actually building the sales trainer brand.
Yes.
On the one hand, how important is it for you to create a personal brand? Also, in terms of building your business, for anybody out there, what would be your advice in order to build a personal brand? And in your way, do I understand it correctly? You're basically building two personal brands?
Yes, it is. I mean, I'm the same person. It's just for different target group, because you cannot mix up the target groups. That's always difficult, because startups have completely different problems, different needs. So you cannot mix it up just now with content for solopreneurs. They have different problems, different needs. So I decided, as I have enough time, let's do a second channel. I mean, obviously on the long term, I need to think about that. But for the short term, it was the only way to handle both things. From a personal branding perspective, I really need to say I wouldn't be here today when I didn't build up my personal brand on LinkedIn. I have currently over 12,000 followers. My main business is coming from LinkedIn, from really going out, showing my face every day, making great content where people really say, wow, Steffi, never seen something so deep and so much really great content you really can take and really do something with it, not just, the blah, blah content, what we see a lot. And
how many percent of your business would you say come from LinkedIn?
80.
Wow.
It's a lot. It's
That's
really
awesome.
a lot. Yeah, it's really a lot. And it was more or less by accident. It was not my first strategy to be on LinkedIn very big, but I was just trying it and it was fun. And I was learning again something new, copywriting and again, something new like I am. And
so you're doing all of this by yourself. You don't have
yes,
a person who is doing it.
no,
Awesome.
no, I really do that. So LinkedIn, I did for the last 3 years on my own and still do everything. And on Instagram, I have a social media manager. She's like, pushing the content out, but I'm doing all the content on my own because it's very deep content. Yeah. Nobody else has my brain, and can just take it out. So that's really difficult. And yeah, but I can really recommend everyone, if you're self-employed, you need to have a personal brand. You need to make awareness, and that's if you're especially a solopreneur. I mean, it's just me, yeah, and I'm the brand. In the end, you need to go out if you want to make money. If you want to make sales, you need to have a personal brand. I think there is no discussion about that.
Wow, that's really fascinating. So, okay, first of all, also to be respectful of your time. If somebody got inspired, if somebody would like to work with you or would like to know more about you, we already talked about LinkedIn, Instagram. I'm going to obviously also put this in the show notes. Anything else where they can find you?
Yeah, so I mean, I need to say, unfortunately, I'm just doing German. So everything from my program's perspective is in German.
At the moment.
So sorry for all the international guys out there. I'm really sorry for you guys. But all my content is also in German. You will not be so happy with it. But, yeah, from a startup perspective, of course, LinkedIn is really great. I have also a newsletter since years. So there you can get a lot of free stuff from my side. And of course, my sales trainings. And for all the solopreneurs or self-employed who want to get solopreneurs in the DACH region, join me on my Instagram channel. I think there you can also get already a lot. I have also a very nice show, which is called Roast Your Business Show. Very fun. You can learn also a lot there, which is for free completely. And if you're interested to work with me as a solopreneur, of course, there is my club. And then just drop me a message. Yeah, if you're interested in that one.
Beautiful. Very, very beautiful. Any last 30-second thought that you would like to leave us with?
My last thought, I think the most important I would give to everyone is find your own way. Don't get distracted by something you see or someone who is bigger than you or someone is doing that too, and then you do that too. Forget about that. I mean, get inspiration out there. I also get inspired by a lot of people, a lot of things I see, but always go back to yourself and find your way, because there is no strategy you just can put, cover everyone up and say, okay, with this you'll be successful. That's super stupid. I see this a lot of times with a lot of mentors and coaches that they do. And I would say, always find your own way, always go your way. And there is always a place for your way. Don't worry that it will not work. It will work when you, of course, learn to sell. That's the most important for sure.
Very, very nice. I love that. Thank you so much for all your wisdom, for all your insights. Thank you so much for taking the time, for being on the show. Once again, give it up. Stephanie Sgura. Woo!
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you for sticking with us until the end. To make this content even more valuable for you, please leave a comment below and share your thoughts, and also share this video with somebody you care about who absolutely needs to see this. Thank you very much. Have an outstanding day and see you next time.